It was a quiet night when I found myself alone in my two-story house. The layout was open, with the living room, dining room, and kitchen all blending into one large space. My sister often stays with her boyfriend 20 miles away, and on this night, she was absent. So it was just me, sitting on the couch in the living room, watching a horror movie. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes, even at 30 years old, being home alone can feel unsettling. The house is big and open, and with my back to the rest of the room, it's hard not to glance over my shoulder occasionally. In the middle of the movie, I began to feel the darkness of the room creep in, despite the dim light of the TV flickering. I tried to shake it off, but couldn't help but glance around nervously. After finishing the movie, I brushed my teeth, turned off all the lights, and went to bed. I slept for only a couple of hours before I woke up around 1 a.m. It was strange. I couldn't figure out why I had woken up. Then I heard it. A voice. It sounded just like my sister, and it was coming from downstairs. I was groggy and disoriented, but I thought she must have come home early, maybe having an argument with her boyfriend. I got out of bed and made my way through the dark hallway, the house eerily quiet. As I moved toward the living room, I heard her calling my name from downstairs. Confused, I went downstairs in search of her. I flipped on the kitchen light, and as the room illuminated, I realized no one was there. My sister wasn't in her bedroom either. I yelled her name, but the only response was a strange sound, like something had fallen in her room. With my heart racing, I quickly made my way back to my room, locked the door, and tried calling her. But there was no answer. I sat in silence, unsure of what had just happened, doubting whether I had imagined it all. The next morning, I woke up to a text from my sister, asking why I had called her at 1 a.m. When I asked if she had come home, she said no, she was still with her boyfriend. I went downstairs to her room, and to my shock, there was nothing on the floor that could explain the noise. I don't know what to believe. I want to think it was all just a bad dream. But how could I have heard her voice so clearly? It still sends chills down my spine thinking about it. Growing up, I spent a lot of time home alone. My mom was a single parent, and as a nurse with crazy shifts, she worked a lot of nights. On this particular weekend, my brother was away at college, and my mom was working overnight. A girl named Molly came over to hang out, and we watched a couple of movies together. But eventually, she had to leave because her parents didn't like her out too late. So I was left alone to finish the night. I was in my room upstairs, lying in bed and watching TV. My room faced the backyard, and as I was settling in, I heard the unmistakable sound of a chair scraping across the deck below. I looked out the window and saw someone sitting on one of the chairs. Thinking it was Molly returning for some reason, I called her name. The person sitting there wasn't her. It wasn't anyone I recognized. Panic set in, and I quickly pulled away from the window to hide, my heart pounding. I texted my closest friends asking if any of them were messing with me. They all said no. No one had come to my house, at least not that I knew of. My fear only deepened as I peered back out the window. The person was still there, looking up at me. A man. Terrified, I hid in the darkness of my room, afraid to make a sound. I didn't even want to touch my phone in case the light from the screen gave away my position. The silence was unbearable, and I waited what felt like forever before gathering enough courage to check again. When I finally did, I saw that he was still there, still staring up at the window. This time, I decided to confront him. I asked, "What do you want?" The man's shoulders began to shake as if he were laughing, but that laughter wasn't comforting. It was dark, sinister. I couldn't stay there anymore. I didn't know what his intentions were, but I knew I had to get out. I ended up hiding in a corner of my room, praying that he would leave. That night still haunts me. I never found out who that